Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking the Doctor Who episode Before the Flood. I kind of have some mixed feelings about this episode. At the end of the day, I enjoyed it, but here's the thing. Like, this episode really sort of breaks from the formula, starting with having like the Doctor basically address us, the audience, and explain the bootstrap paradox to us. And this is all well and good. It was certainly interesting, and a fun little bit. But it really sort of embodies, I think, in a lot of ways, one of the major problems with New Who, and that is that at the end of the day, it's the emotional resonance of the story, I suppose is how to put it, is considered to be vastly more important than the internal logic of the story. Now, Doctor Who has always been a show that's not exactly shied away from the silliness. Continuity has been an enormous, ridiculous, tangled knot for years and years and years, and it's had its more than its fair share of stuff in stories that just plain doesn't make sense. But it's since the show came back 10 years ago, it's really just been very consistent about basically saying to the audience, like, look, we get that this doesn't entirely make sense. Just don't think about it too much and go with it on. Okay? And to a certain degree, that's fine. There's of course suspension of disbelief, but and I've complained about this many times before that New Who really just seems to take for granted a higher level of just go with it than I think it really should. Like the whole explanation, for example, of why the 11th Doctor couldn't reunite with Amy and Rory after what was that? Angels Take Manhattan, or whatever that was. I mean, that was just such a ridiculous. I mean, it was a wonderfully emotional scene and all that, but if you just sat there and even thought about it for 5 minutes, it's like this doesn't make a goddamn bit of sense. And here, they're kind of doing the same thing. They're basically like, look, we know that the internal logic of the story doesn't quite make sense. Here's a half-assed explanation for it. Okay, I guess maybe half-assed is a little harsh, but I think you get where I'm going with this. It's kind of like how they sorted out that big cliffhanger with the death of Sherlock Holmes on Sherlock, where it's like, here's a couple of things that might have happened. We're not going to tell you what actually happened, but, hey, Sherlock's back, and you're happy about it, so let's just get on with things. Meanwhile, most of the people in the audience are like, are you fucking kidding me? Yep, you need the big bottle for this one. Okay, so with that said, let's just kind of get into it. Now, there were some things in this episode that I really liked. The Doctor running around that phony Russian town in the middle of Scotland, that was pretty cool, because things like that on both sides really did exist during the Cold War. And I also really liked how the Doctor took that in the earlier part of the episode, the very philosophical attitude towards his death. He's like, look, I've lived longer than I really should have anyway. If this is the end, but of course, as the episode wears on, he changes his mind, and he's the Doctor, so of course he finds a clever way around the situation. And that the Doctor was going to be the one that was in that coffin the whole time. I mean, a lot of people, including myself, saw that coming. But at the end of the day, they did offer a fairly reasonable explanation for what was going on. Fairly reasonable. And it was just another one of those examples of at the very end where the Doctor pulls a rabbit out of his hat, and it's extraordinarily fun to watch him save the day and the bad guy get what's coming to them. Yay! And of course we get more stuff with Clara's really just unwavering faith in the Doctor, and I really liked how she put it. Like, if you have ever loved me in any way, bit kind of going back to how it was sort of hinted that the 11th Doctor might have had a bit of a crush on her, which was kind of cute. But this episode also sort of had a nice little reminder that the Doctor is not always the nicest guy. Like when O'Donnell died. Connor, I think it was the crewman's name, kind of gets in the Doctor's face. He's like, "Hey, you knew the ghosts were saying the name of the people that we died in order, and you didn't really try and stop O'Donnell from going out there." Now, in all fairness, the Doctor did say, "Hey, maybe you should stay here," and O'Donnell's like, "Yeah, no, not happening." But O'Donnell was also an enormous Doctor fangirl, and if he had said to her, "Look, I know you want to go out there and have this adventure, but I have good reason to think that you will be the next person to die. For your own safety, stay here in the TARDIS," I think O'Donnell would have been persuaded to listen to reason if he had put it that way. But the Doctor didn't. And the idea that he let her come along to sort of test his hypothesis really harkens back to what we saw the Doctor doing in Mummy on the Orient Express. The Doctor is willing to sacrifice people if it means being able to save more people. And I really liked how he didn't deny it either. He really got called to the mat on that one, and justifiably so. Other good points of this episode. I really liked the alien guy. Darn, I can't remember the alien's name. Pritchard or something, or was that the oil guy who died? Whatever. So the goofy-looking alien dude. I like when he starts going on about his planet Tivoli, which makes me think of where is that? Tivoli Gardens in Denmark. Anyway, he starts going on about his planet and is like, he kind of like tried to persuade the Doctor to come there and invade his planet. And he even goes to him, it's like, I've got some devices with me that you could use to oppress me. And the Doctor is just like horribly squicked out by him. It's like, sort of like somebody had come along and like basically said like, "Hey, I've got some chains and whips in my car if you want to go and dominate me BDSM style." It's like, wow. Let's see, what else? Nothing really particularly huge to say about the other crewmen from the show, the Deaf Lady and the interpreter guy. I mean, we could kind of see that there's obviously something going on between those two, but the whole is like, "Oh, you should tell her that you love her because blah blah blah." It's like, come on, this is just so schmaltzy. And let's see. Yes, this also brings us to the Fisher King. And I find that name to be particularly hilarious if you actually understand where the term the Fisher King comes from and what it refers to in religious terms. Now, I don't think this guy is intended to have been an actual king. I don't think he was sort of like the king of his species. I think that was probably just some sort of the TARDIS providing a translation of what his rank. He really would have been more like something like a scout, an advanced scout. You know, he goes out there, he finds planets, and summons his people to come and invade. But the Fisher King was a pretty extraordinarily cool-looking monster. Very nice, special effects work. Definitely comes across seriously creepy. Gets a nice speech about how he's going to destroy humanity, and even gets in the Doctor's face about what jerks the Time Lords are. And it's extremely satisfying to watch the Doctor turn the tables on him. And to the Fisher King's credit, when he realizes, like, oh, all of this water is coming here to smash me, he's not afraid. He's like, yeah, come on, bring it. And yeah, he's totally dead. I mean, just remember, there is such a thing. Water has weight. Water pressure can crush stuff. That's why you can't really walk around on the very bottom of the ocean, because the weight of all the water pushing down would crush you like a bug. That's why we send submarines and stuff down there. Yeah, don't mess around with water, folks. And I say this as somebody who has family whose houses have been half buried by floods. Water does not joke around when there's a lot of it. But anyway, let's see. Anything else that I wanted to talk about? No, I really do think that kind of covers it. Well, there was a lot of fun stuff in this episode, and it's definitely fun to let Peter Capaldi screw around with the guitar, and we even get that sort of rock remix of his Doctor Who theme. At the end of the day, there were some nice. The character moments were strong. The story moments were weak, I guess, is kind of the best way to put it. And that's kind of a shame because it seemed to me like the last episode, the story elements were pretty strong and the character moments were good. It felt like a much more balanced episode last time around. And here, here they basically had to take a moment and say, look, audience, we know that some of this stuff doesn't make sense. Just roll with it. And honestly, to me, that just seems more than a little patronizing. If you have to sort of like say, hey, nerds, shut up about it and just go with it. Alright, so anyway, that's it for this time around. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Till next time, take care and have a good one.